Welcome back to the Talos of EV podcast, everybody. Sorry about last week. We are here with a special guest. If you don't watch tech, I managed to steal Drew last week, and we happened to coordinate time again to get him here. And
Time zones
I've
are
been,
closer this time, so we should be good.
yeah, I don't know if I don't know if this part's cut out or not. I was just chuckling that Drew normally like leads us in, but I've been in, you know, manning the flag mode that I was just running it. I went into auto mode, so that was kind of funny. But um,
We're
so
back.
we are back. The gang's all here for the first time. Wait. Let's see. Can I pull this off? I think in recent time, 100% of the hosts have a Model 3 uh, under their ownership, uh, title in hand and whatnot. I don't. I think that's a thing. I hope that's a thing.
Probably not the
Um.
first, but
Oh, okay.
yeah, we did. We've got it. We're back in business, and I missed my Model 3. I can confidently say I have not been able to drive for over a month. Um,
Mm.
but thankfully, there's a lot more Teslas where I'm at now. I'm only 6 hours away from 6 time zones away from Randy now instead of 18. So I feel so much closer. And the in the Philippines, I looked everywhere for EVs. I couldn't find a single one. I was told by other viewers that they're on different islands. I was in the island of Leyte, and there's just
Uh,
I was looking everywhere. I was like, my goal is just to find at least one. I just want to see one, and it never happened. But in Thailand, there was a couple Teslas, definitely not as frequent as in the US, but what there was a lot of that I had never seen before while we're on our EV spotting out in the field game, uh, BYD, lots of build your dream vehicles, which are, according to Elon and Tesla, BYD is Tesla's greatest threat. They are, they are the big player in China, Asia. I think they're in Europe as well. They're just not in the U.S. market, but they definitely stand out. You can see them when it's a very iconic light bar design. And anytime I saw one, I was like, "That's got to be BYD." And then we get closer. Yep, build your dreams. That's what it says.
you
So,
had me doing the Tucker Carlson face.
what's that in American? I've never heard of a BY what?
BY buy your. So that's why Elon likes to, praise China factory a lot for its, because
Oh yeah, that's the
the threat
reason.
is real.
It's
Yeah, that's the reason.
the
Yeah,
There's
yeah.
not any other reason as to why he would criticize
No, can't think of any.
Americans' policy on lockdowns, but not the Chinese. But yeah,
Can't think of
it's
any.
just
No.
BYD. That's the only
Yeah,
one.
BY.
But still, it was
Interesting.
cool to see a lot of EVs that were not available in the U.S. And all the Teslas we did see in Thailand are. It's the first time I visited a country that's right-hand drive. So that was an interesting
Ooh,
experience. Being in the car, getting in the what the
that's
American
right.
would consider the driver's seat, and then there's nothing there. I'm like, oh, this is kind of
Yeah,
weird.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
But for
I
Tesla,
forgot
must
Thailand
be.
does that because Japan is the same way as well. And
Oh, really? Okay.
yeah, they're on it's inverted.
It makes
Yeah,
me think so much about like standards and how funny humans
yeah,
are, like how fickle we are. Like some people, well, it comes up a lot when we're talking about NACS. So another
yeah.
update, everybody. Mercedes is now on the NACS train. I'm getting less and less excited, I guess, as more companies
No,
adopt it.
now I'm just like looking at Lucid like,
Yeah, it's just getting more and more awkward, the companies that don't do it. We started from when companies announce NACS, we were like, yeah, that's awesome. Woohoo! Now when a company announces NACS, it's like, yeah, good,
of
good.
course,
And if someone
naturally.
doesn't, we're just mad. Now we're just like, come on. And if you're last, everyone's gonna look at you like, oh, took you long enough. Sheesh. Like, let's get over it. I had to put it up to a poll for my channel members. I was like, should I do a video on Mercedes switching to NACS? I don't really think I need to. They were like,
Yeah.
yeah, you got to do it. I was like, okay. People are like, it's substantial because it's,
Mercedes is reputable. That one, I would be
yeah,
more
that's
excited to
true.
see what Mercedes has to say over, uh, you know, GM. That
Yeah,
GM had a chance to go first, but Ford took that for the everyday vehicle operator. So,
that's
but
true.
on the luxury side, Mercedes, holds a lot of uh what's the word? Not brand recognition, but they have a
Legacy,
lot of it.
history,
They
uh,
hold a lot of. I'm trying to find a better way to consolidate the word of bragging rights because they are
street
known
cred.
for quality.
No pun
Sure,
intended.
yeah, we'll do street cred.
Yeah.
That was the dream car. I mean, Steve Jobs, all he drove was that was the one he put his stamp behind that,
Hmm.
and he was a quality control fanatic. So anyway, Mercedes is something interesting. I don't want to derail you from what you were about to say something about the inverted
Oh yeah.
driving.
Well, it's just funny because I was listening to I'm trying to decide if I want to drop their name or not. I'll just say a podcast. I was listening to a major podcast that gets way more attention than ours does, and they don't do exclusive EV coverage, but they kind of dabble in it from time to time. And they were mentioning how okay, more and more people are switching to NACS, um, but they use CCS in Europe. And I was, pulling my hair out because I was like, it's not the same thing. But I was like, this
Right.
annoys me even more so because not only is CCS a poorly designed connector, but on top of that, they have somehow managed a way to confuse the general public into thinking that CCS is only one port. And it is not. There is CCS1 and there is CCS2, and they are not the same connector, but the average consumer or the average EV, you know, uh, not enthusiast, someone who dabbles in EV content but doesn't know too much about it, they are now convinced that Europe is using the same connector as the US, and that's not true. So
Right.
that annoys me in the first place. And people are like, why can't we just have one connector for all the EVs in the world? I'm like, first of all, that's not how that works with regular wall outlets. They don't have the same connector in Europe as we do in the US, and they got
Right.
different voltages. And on top of that, then I get into Thailand, and I'm like, we can't even agree where to put the steering wheel on these cars. I was like, it's like you have a whole chunk of the world that's like, oh, it's got to go on the right, and then a whole different chunk of the world, oh, it's got to go on the left. I don't know the history of which one started it and who. At what point were vehicles being manufactured, and someone came along and said, well, everyone's doing it that way. Let's do it a different way. I don't know what the
It's the same reason
backstory
why
is.
we go by the metric system or the
Yeah, Imperial. Yeah.
imperial system.
Metric makes so
And
much more sense. It's a lot
yeah,
more logical,
America,
but
man.
there's no hope. Like, good luck trying to change that. Like, I agree with
Right.
people that say metric is better. I'm just saying, like, I can't, if I went around America telling people something is this many kilometers away, or, I started
Yeah.
saying, that's so and so meters away, they're not going to know they're going to go, like, what? You want us to change every single speed limit sign? And,
We incorporate it in a way that's like more under the radar, like in our food, like when you look at the nutritional
mm,
facts,
yeah,
medicine,
yeah.
uh, leaders in liquid fluids and stuff when it goes like I'm thinking of like shampoos and body
Oh,
washes and
yeah,
stuff like that.
yeah.
So we do have a way that we kind of sneak into that, but we have to be so America about it. And I think if I remember correctly, the right side versus left side of the driving thing came from horses and people jousting. And if you're right hand
Oh, wow.
dominant, then you would be on the right side
Huh.
being up against it when you're coming up to your opponent,
Mm.
and you would go like that. So they wanted to be able to, thrust their,
That's
that's the
fascinating.
legend at least that they
Okay.
say that. So at least in the UK, that's why those guys drive on the left side because your right hand dominant. Most people are, and so they kind of feel like they have better control.
Yeah.
But I don't know how much validity there actually is to that because that has nothing to do with the rest of it. Like, then why does
I was
Japan do it?
Yeah, I was gonna say that's so old and so dated, but then I was thinking, and we still use horsepower. Like, we're still
Yeah,
referencing. I was just
yeah.
watching videos on the Plaid Model S, over 1,000 horsepower, and I was like, this is such a dumb form of measurement. Just I'm just visualizing 1,000 horses tied up to this vehicle with like 500 on each side. I was like, why are we still saying horsepower? How long are we going to keep that up? At what point do we put our foot down? That's the weird thing about standards and platforms. It's very hard to get people to move. but that's for another show. um, but yeah, so the
Way to clickbait.
yeah,
Just
one
yeah, that one's going over. Yep, that one did it.
one more standard difference that I will give credit to in the Philippines and Thailand is they've made outlets that are backwards compatible. So they work with like the European outlet, but they will
Yeah,
also take our US outlet. So we didn't have to use adapters at all in on either country. You can still plug in. It's a weird shape, but they have this like universal outlet that will take both. And I was like, I'm really glad they thought of that. That's really refreshing that they just installed a way for you to plug in any outlet from a very wide variety of countries. It's probably not every country, but still, I was like, you could just plug in here. And it also got me thinking in the Philippines, at least, very different road system from Thailand. For one, it's left-hand drive, but also the road systems, at least where I was in Leyte, there's not like highways. Like the vast majority of driving is done between 35, 45 miles per hour. And
mm.
there's not a lot of stoplights. Everybody just kind of inches forward and just tries not to hit each other, and they honk, and it's crazy. I didn't want to drive there. They My family offered me to, and I was like, no thanks, I'm good.
Controlled chaos. Yeah,
Yeah, it's a controlled chaos, but simultaneously I'm amazed how well everybody has adjusted to it there. First of all, it's like, well, robo taxis is so like never like it's like, how's a robo taxi gonna know how to manage with these motorcycles that are like tucking around you and like kicking
it
off the
doesn't.
car? I was like, there's no way. I
Yeah,
already have a hard time believing robo taxis in the U.S. There, it's like flat out. I I want to say impossible, but um, as far as like the speed goes, I feel like those countries which are not electrified as much as we are in the US, or even more so in Europe, I think they will actually transition to EVs a lot smoother than we do, partly because of, well, in those islands you don't need to drive as far. They don't need to rely as much on a fast charging network. And on top of that, one of the weird things about the US and our home charging systems is the US is still like 110 volt standard.
yeah,
Whereas in those other countries, even though they're less developed, they have like 220 volt standard to
yeah.
all the outlets. So you'll get a lot more efficient and faster AC charging for EVs there. And I also was thinking about how if most of the driving is done between 35, 40 miles per hour, aerodynamics isn't as important. You'll notice
Right.
vehicles there are a lot like shorter and stubbier, like they're not as long as our US cars with the big hood and they go back really far. A lot of the cars there are like, minibus style, flat front, flat back. And normally I would say, oh, that's terrible for aero, but in that region, there's not really a point to focus on aero because aero matters a lot when you're going 65, 70 plus, but they don't do that a lot there. So I was like, well, you could make smaller vehicles that are less aero focused and they could use smaller battery packs and they could charge more efficiently just off of the outlets they already have in their homes. They're already
Mm.
wired for it in their garages and stuff. So I think it's just an availability of like LFP as that scales up because obviously people there can't buy as expensive of vehicles, but once the availability of those cells increases and there's more um, lower end, cheaper vehicles optimized for that market, I think it'll be a pretty smooth transition for them. One day, I think they'll get there. But yeah, it's just
I know.
totally different market. It's interesting.
I noticed the outlet situation being like I had to get one of those universal adapters for
Oh yeah,
electric, and the first thing I was told when we stopped in Germany first, our friends were like, don't plug certain things into these outlets because it's a higher
right,
output,
right.
and you can blow a circuit out here.
Yeah.
Like, wait, what? So it made me think about your Philippines thing about it being backwards compatible between the two because I feel like the U.S. is the most bricked uh
It's
in
ironic, right? Because we've had it for arguably the longest, but that's why it's so dated, is because
yeah.
we built it out with the lower voltage architecture. And then once these new
They're on
countries
that
started,
USB-A
yeah,
2.0, and we're over here Thunderbolt
yeah,
USB-C.
right, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
interesting how different markets will have to adopt, but it all comes back to how is like I'm just grateful that NACS is winning, and I don't I don't think there was any hope of a global standard, and honestly, it doesn't matter as much because you are much more likely, like you just said, to take your own chargers and cables and bricks and things to a different country than you are your whole car. You know, the likelihood of you taking a vehicle with NACS to Europe or to Asia, that's so rare, so unlikely that it's not as important, in my opinion, as having a charging standard for more mobile electronics like your phone and laptop. But we don't even have that. And we adjust, there's adapters and outlets that can account for it. But
Right.
yeah, so.
I think the whole situation with thinking about these uh, not as developed countries, especially islands,
Mm,
where there's not a lot of driving. You equate with the Philippines. I draw my my parallel to when I was in Guam, and Guam
oh,
is
yeah, yeah,
this big,
right.
and so
They recently had the
I.
whole island carpeted. It's so small.
You go, hey, I'm going for a walk. All right, I'll see you in 45
Right.
minutes because you walk the whole island at that point.
People from Rhode
So
Island get claustrophobic.
Guam is smaller than Rhode
Yep,
Island, yeah.
yep.
Uh, so I think about, you know, smaller countries or islands, or I would even say even in Hawaii, and I might draw the line at maybe the Philippine Islands. But anyway, what I'm getting at is that, like, part of me goes, do they even need electric vehicles over there
Mm,
for 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 personal use, like personal property, or can it be more like communal, like the metros, and take an MPS or something, where it's when we eventually fully move over electric, um if the governments were to be the ones to supply it, and like there's our public transit, and uh maybe that'd be the way of getting around. Because I remember, now it's been many years since I've been on one of the smaller islands, but I do remember like thinking that um I felt like if I was driving a vehicle, like I felt like, ooh, oh my, everyone's like, they walk, or they take a horse or something, a buggy, and I'm and just, off, like the roads aren't smooth and
right, right.
everything's bouncy and stuff like. And so I think, like, I don't know if EVs would even be on someone's radar out there.
Mm,
Cuba still uses today refined, almost mint condition 1950s vehicles. Things
mm.
that are, in all sense of the word, deemed unsafe,
Yeah,
not fit for today's standards of driving.
right.
No airbags, no AC. But that's just what they have, because that's what they got when they were able to get cars brought into them. And so, majority of the people over there, if you go to Cuba, it is going through a time machine, and you are in the 1950s, and you just have all these cars, and people clean them like they're brand, 2020,
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
oh, just give me so and so a wash today. But uh
That's cool.
and I don't see those guys at any point, even though they're considered North American
Mm,
by
yeah,
hemisphere.
yeah.
I don't see them ever getting NACS put in for nothing. That they are almost a century behind us now at this point. They are 80, no,
That's true.
70
They're
years.
coming up on it. Yeah.
Yeah, so they're almost a century behind us on transportation. But not to, like, crap on them. They make it work for them, for that island, for that community, and it is what it
You're
is.
Cuban, so you
So
can diss on them too. It's
I
okay.
can disown them, but I also gotta
You got
represent
to
them,
represent too. Yeah.
You know Tony Montana, man. Come on, man. Let me tell you something. Hey, forget about it, okay? Let me tell
You're
you.
gonna
You want to go down there to Cuba? I thought you was,
I
yeah,
just picture
yeah. I,
them
I, I can I can
smoking a
talk smack if I want
cigar.
to, but I'm not
Just do a cigar with Nax on the other end.
gonna. Yeah.
But
Oh,
I
so,
will argue
yeah,
in the Philippines, there's a lot more motorcycles than there are cars. And on the subject
yeah.
of not ownership, there is a ton of there's a few different names for them, but the one that comes to mind for me is tuk tuk. There's a lot of phrases like
Okay.
that. in the Philippines, where
Tuk
it's
tuk.
like, you know, repeat, jabby jabby.
Yes,
It's all
the
these like,
words I know I'm not allowed to say because they are inappropriate.
sure,
But they also have repeating.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, it's a lot of
I'm
repeating
also San
phrases.
Diegan, ladies and gentlemen. So if you don't know, that's very Filipino community based down there.
Yeah.
So
He's
I was
basically
explaining.
Filipino, but
If you're in the Navy,
essentially,
you're basically Filipino. Yeah,
that's how that works.
that's how that
Essentially,
works.
a lot of people just take those everywhere, and they fit, like 5, 6 people on these motorcycles that just have a little sidecar and little
Yeah,
benches off the back. And again, they don't go very far and they don't go very fast. But one thing, well, a lot of things were way cheaper there. Like, wow, look how much food you can buy for dirt cheap, and it's so affordable here. The one thing that was not cheaper than America was gas. They're still paying.
and you're a Californian saying
Yeah,
that.
yeah, no, it was bad. I mean, they were telling us like, "Oh, we pay about what you pay for gas back at," and I was like, "You think I pay?" Uh, but essentially, it requires a lot of math because not only is the price displayed in peso instead of dollars, but they also show it in um,
Leaders.
liters instead of gallons. So it was like,
Yeah,
what's that in American? And I was like, oh god, I got to do this 4 point equation now, all this
yeah,
math.
yeah.
I dropped out of school so I wouldn't have to do this. But basically, it translated to where we were staying to about $4 a gallon, and that's in a country where the minimum wage is like $1 an hour. So
Yeah.
the fuel saving argument, I think, is exaggerated there because now the portion of people's livelihoods is incredibly high for fuel costs compared to the US. It's already pretty bad in the US, so that's a big motivation to switch to electric. But there, it's a different market in terms of what the vehicles are used for. No F-150s I saw anywhere in Thailand or Philippines. Really popular though is smaller size pickup trucks like Ford Rangers.
Darn, no Hummers.
No Hummers, thank God. Of course, I get where I'm at now, and there's Hummers everywhere. I'm like, oh, this is so stupid. Um, but
You Americans.
it made me realize how niche of a well, it's not niche because the U.S. is pretty big, both in population and our bodies are big. But like, there is a
Yeah.
ton of obsession with big SUVs, big trucks in the U.S. that I just don't see in other countries, and those smaller size pickups are really really popular, but even more so is the motorcycles and the tuk tuks. And I was like, you electrify those and you get the cost of ownership way lower. I think just from a financial perspective, that's going to take off. And and something that I noticed changed since last time I was in the Philippines was 2019. Didn't see any Apple products anywhere. I was the only guy
Mm.
during that whole like 2 week trip that had an
They
iPhone.
thought you were Tim Cook
Yeah.
walking around there. Good morning.
Good morning. They're like, whoa, he has an iPhone. And this most recent time I went to the Philippines, I saw lots of Apple products. There were billboards from Power Mac
They
Center
were
for
judging you with
iPads.
your SE too. They're
He's
like,
like,
ew,
ooh, he has an SE.
he has
So
Touch ID.
yeah, there were iPhones all over the place now, and they were becoming really commonplace. So just within the span of 4 years, you see this adoption of what used to be a more American focused brand. So I think it's trickled down. It's not all at once, and cars are definitely going to take longer to adopt to than phones. But I'm very interested now if every time I go back to the Philippines, will I see more electrification? Would I see more EV options now that there's more electric motorcycles on the market? They're definitely way more expensive than what most people are buying when they're there, but that just comes with scale as more batteries are built up
Sure.
and there's
Yeah.
more of a used market. I think there could be a lot more by the time I get there, but it's interesting to see different countries in their different stages of development,
Yeah.
and be like,
Yeah.
okay, here's no EVs, here's some EVs, but different from the ones we get in the U.S. And then we got Hummers over here.
I rate it. I rate it how much money a country was making based off of somewhat of that like gauge. For
Mm.
example, when I was in Italy,
Mm-hmm.
um, there was a Model Y or three, one of them, whatever. But that was definitely an import. I can tell it was an
Mm.
import. But when I made it to Switzerland, I saw a Tesla showroom. I was like, oh.
Oh yeah.
And that's what, and I then I like it's like after you see something special. After I saw the showroom, I start looking around. I'm like, oh look, there's a silver three.
Yeah.
There's a silver three. There's a silver Y. Why is it? Is silver the free color out here? But
Yeah.
I noticed that like all these guys, their stage of EV adoption was like on track,
Mm.
equal to, if not given, population differences, maybe even surpass America. Like
Oh yeah.
Switzerland is a very
Definitely.
EV conscious country. So is Germany. Germany,
Mm.
right? I learned so much about Europe, man. Like
Yeah.
Germany prides themselves on going green.
Mm-hmm.
I know about like we know about Berlin and the Gigafactory out there. What I didn't know was that the government actually incentivizes its citizens to use alternative energy.
Mm.
So they're doing everything they can to do away with uh with fossil fuel basically.
Yeah.
Like they have a pretty aggressive um, trajectory about where they're trying to get the country because how it was explained to me is they want to be the leader in Europe about going green, renewable energy, and
Germany
having
always wants to be the leader.
Merkel, sit down. I don't disagree with what you're saying. You're just the wrong person to say it. It hasn't been a century. You're still in timeout. You need to just sit down. You need to calm down, Merkel. Okay, can somebody else do it? Trudeau, what are you doing? Go back, not you. So yes, Germany definitely wants to like set an example because they are very big on look, we are trying to do right.
Yeah. Yeah.
But through all that, they're actually doing some pretty neat stuff. Like the country as a whole was very eco conscious. That's the best way I can describe it. Just
Yes. Yeah.
everything's eco conscious. I'm seeing, windmills everywhere. I'm
Mm-hmm.
on a train. I'm like, well, this train is actually running, I think, electricity. It's not,
Yeah. And it's a
the old
public
locomotive.
transport. Much bigger emphasis on that there, which is good for the environment and everything.
True.
So
So
that's a
it's
huge
cool
one.
to see the evolution of different countries and where they're at
Mm-hmm.
in comparison to, like, ultimately, everybody compares themselves to America. We set the global standard about something, whether we get to it first or not. We're whatever we do, it ripples, and I'm
Mm.
glad to see that it makes it to more developed, first world countries, as well as the smaller ones that you would forget about that are also somewhat cognitive about their 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 I guess economic status today. So that's pretty neat.
Yeah.
Hey, I wanted to tell you something really quickly before I forget.
Okay.
Only because I know I'll forget if I don't say it now. Before I don't assume you listen to these shows. I just assume I just assume you let the inmates run the prison. Uh, so just to recap,
Mm-hmm.
I had sent a bill to the floor to get
Oh right.
passed by Congress in the House
Yeah.
about um me selling my Model 3. I had told Mike that I am going to actively pursue selling it in exchange for getting a Rivian, front of the line. I would get a Rivian first, and if not, or whatever the case would be,
Mm-hmm.
then a Volvo EX30. That is like dead set. Well, after I drafted the bill and I submitted it, it was dead on arrival. It did not pass the first stage on nothing. Uh, lo and behold, the conversation went in a very different direction, and they're like, if we're going to get rid of a car, we're going to get rid of the Y.
What? Wait. The
What?
why? Why?
The Y.
Why the? Oh my God. Well, first of all, I just wanted to say I do listen to the inmates running the prison, and I side with the Senate on this one, but I'm even more confused now with the selling of the Y idea. But
So
I
no,
like the I
if
like the
it was
hypothetical
posed,
of us being Model 3 only again.
yes, right, balanced the way it should have been. Always,
Hmm.
because we
Hmm.
don't need Mike's ego over here running up saying that yes, Model Y, but it, the hypothetical was if we are to sell one, we sell the Y before we sell the. That was verbatim. If we are to sell one, we're
Why?
not in, because the Model 3 is more efficient.
That's true. I like what you're saying.
Not me. That's them saying all that. That's the government. That's the chain of command speaking. That's the chain of
I
command.
like the chain of
Um,
commands perspective.
yeah, yeah.
It is
I
more efficient.
I don't disagree either, but I was willing to let go. And then there was a sentimental part. It's like this was the conversation how it went. For as long as I've known you, you've always talked about wanting a Model 3. That was the car that you wanted. That was your dream car. You got your dream car. I never wanted a Model Y. We went with it because it made sense for where we're at today now. But that wasn't I'm gonna start saving and 2 years
Yeah,
from
yeah.
now I'm gonna buy that Model Y. It was we I mean we were looking at RAV4s. We were looking at Ionic fives
Hmm.
or
Hmm.
looking at EV6s. So um it, it's not there's the sentimental element, the human element is also present with
Hmm.
that decision, and there's not the same emotional attachment to it as there is having an attachment to the Model 3. So yeah.
Okay. I mean, it's interesting because, I like the three, and I miss it so dearly. Every time I see one now on the street, I'm like, there she goes. But
Pearl?
yeah, I guess I wouldn't be too focused on the human element. I mean, I understand the argument of like that was the dream car and you saved for it and now you have it. So there's a nostalgia element to it, but at the same time I tend to side with like what makes the most sense for where we're at now, where you're at now. And I I personally think the why based on context of where you're at now, you got it already and you're using it and you like it, I think, and it makes more
Mhm.
sense from a utility standpoint. Um, where I may differ from Mike because Mike is the big trailer towing truck guy. Um, I'm more of the camp of like try to get by with less if possible. So
Mhm.
I'm in the camp of like if I were in your shoes, I'd be maybe not selling the three right away or very quickly because it's got the full self driving. So I think if I was in that position,
Whatever that means.
whatever that means, again, to you and me, that doesn't mean much. But to the right buyer out there, you don't have to believe it yourself. But if there's a buyer out there that believes in the full self driving future, they would be willing to pay a premium for that, which is to your gain. And over time, if FSD goes up in value again, I would accommodate for that in the sale price and just hold it up high and list it and just say, if I was in your shoes, I'd list it and say, I'm not in a rush to sell this. Don't lowball me. You know, I'm gonna let it sit up for market for a long time until it finds the right buyer, and it might take a while because most people don't care about full self driving for obvious reasons, including ourselves. But
Right.
um, in your shoes, I would basically just live with the why. Like I think you're getting by without a pickup truck for the past however many years now. Rivians are cool, but um, I think the amount of money it would cost you to buy a Rivian would be substantially orders of magnitude higher than just renting one when you need it on occasion. Or in my shoes, it's like very rarely do we ever need a truck. But when we do, we tend to know somebody that doesn't need it at the same time. So we'll just borrow it from them and pay them back for it, even if it's not electric. Um, that's why I so desperately want to know someone with a Rivian because I appreciate the tech. I think it's a really cool product and very smart, very intelligently designed. And now I've forgiven RJ now that they've announced NACS. I'm not mad at Rivian anymore. I'm looking forward to where the company goes, but in general, I think more people buy trucks than they need to. Um, and I see a lot of pickup trucks on the road that aren't hauling anything or moving any trailer or have much cargo. And I think given your current lifestyle, I don't know if that's planning on changing or anything. Rivian's kind of overkill. Like it's an off-road machine. It's super fast. And if your main argument you're bringing up between the 3 and the Y is efficiency, uh, Rivian's going to be far worse than the Y or the 3 in terms of energy consumption. And um, yeah, it's getting NACS, but it's still charge port. We don't know exactly what location it's going to be at, and
Hmm.
the peak charging speed of the Rivian is lower than your 3 or Y, and
Yeah.
that's with a much bigger battery pack. So
Hmm.
it's like a double whammy. Not only is it less efficient and it's using more energy per mile, but it's also going to take longer to charge it. So in terms of like road trip ability, it's definitely I don't think going to be ideal for that. And um, it's just it's a cool vehicle, but I would, and I don't know your lifestyle as well as you do, but just from an external perspective, I'm like, if you can get by this long without a truck, Mike, I can't really use that same argument with because Mike has had a truck for the past, 3, 4 years, and he's using it all the time. He's probably using it right now as we speak. So
Yeah.
he's like, I need a truck. We use a truck all the time and all frequently, and I'm like, if you can get by this long without one, you probably don't need to like commit to a full, especially even with time. I think it'll still be a $60,000 purchase or $50,000 purchase. So I'm probably not giving you the more exciting scenario because it's probably more fun to speculate on what's my next EV, what am I going to buy next. But I'm kind of like I think you're good. If I were in your shoes, I would try to get by with just a one car, just because that's what we're doing and it seems to be working out okay. Um, on top of that, uh, the main advantage that I'm really excited about with Teslas is this whole referral program rework. We can get into that if you want, because they've changed a
Man,
lot since the
I'm
last
getting
time we
funny
recorded.
emails to tell you the truth. I
Yeah,
even today I got an email that I want I guess I don't know how the conversation went, so I will say it. I or like I don't know how we got to this point, but unbeknownst to me, Drew uh let's put up my referral code on EV for anybody who's making those orders because there's been an update to the referral program where you get capped after a certain point. So
five.
instead of then it just kind of 5, and
Mm-hmm.
I now I'm one less, but we we see them like be more, I guess, realistic with their offerings because I would say it's safe to assume that we would use the referrals to go towards supercharging miles. I think
Probably
that's a fair
most people.
assessment. Yeah. I so anyway, Drew used mine. Somebody has already placed an order since then. So out loud to I don't know if the person listens to the podcast, but if you do, thank you and thank you, Drew, for uh even
Of
doing that for me.
course.
That's cool, and it will be put to good use because
I wasn't gonna get anything out of it, so it felt wasteful to.
your cap of you know thank you for not pulling up the ladder after you got up there. I guess is what I'm trying to say. Then you're like
I
I
really don't
guess.
intend to, but yeah, like I could have. The interesting part about this change, well, just to rewind for a second, I'm a little bit. I'm happy for you because I'm glad that okay, more people get to utilize the benefits because 10,000 credits per referral is amazing. That's like way more than 1,000 miles worth. Now with 10,000
Right.
credits, you can get like 4,000 miles of supercharging per referral. That's enough to go across the whole country just from one sale. Like that's really cool. And
Which I'm planning.
Yeah, you're gonna do. And on top of that, the way they started it out, I guess I'm more annoyed with. I think it's better now because I think the goal from the beginning was they want the referral program to be, you can take advantage of it as a content creator, but they didn't like the people racking up, like hundreds of points. Like, I won 2 free roadsters. I have 3 million supercharging miles. It's like, okay, you're you're using the program, but you're not going to drive 3 million miles. And the people who were getting the free roadsters were typically people that, if you had that much of an audience, you could have probably afforded one anyway. Or they already had, the money to buy a Plaid Model S. So you're kind of rewarding people that didn't necessarily need to be rewarded that much, but you still
The
want,
rich get richer.
yeah, the rich get richer. So they were trying to optimize it to be more fair, and I think the referral cap was a smart idea. But what I didn't appreciate was the change in direction so quickly without much transparency. They didn't like issue a
Yeah.
statement, and their system is still broken to this day. It's still busted. So I was confused when all of a sudden the most frustrating part was I was literally, I kid you not, one referral away from being able to get enhanced autopilot. Like, you
Mm.
need 55,000 credits to get enhanced. They put that right in the app, and 120,000 credits to get FSD. And we are doing the math. Okay, that's like 28 referrals or 60 referrals, depending on. So they were right up, straight up showcasing if you refer 30 to 60 people, you can buy FSD. And I was like, whoa, okay. Well, I would never pay 6 grand or 15 grand for FSD, but I do refer a lot of people. So yeah, I was like, maybe I'll be able to refer my way to FSD. That's really cool. So I was incentivized. I'm pushing it. I'm playing the game. I'm like, yeah, use my code, guys. I appreciate it. And anybody uses my code, I'll share your video on my page. I'll
Right.
moderate you. I wanted to reward the people as a thank you because I appreciate people for using my code. But they had to have on their system seen these new referral credits racking up. And how many people in that short time window, it didn't last long. It was like mid-May when they revamped it till
Right.
now. How many people were actually able to get enhanced autopilot or FSD? I'm sure there's people that got more than I did. So maybe a handful of people were able to redeem it. But to like incentivize it that way, say, look, you can redeem your way to full self-driving. And then right before people start actually being able to accumulate that many credits, they go, yeah, never mind. And they remove it. It's not there anymore.
Yeah.
You can't. I was like,
The old
that's
bait and switch.
kind of fishy to me. I think that was a little icky of them to be like, let's
Yeah.
advertise that you can refer your way to FSD. And then right before people do, take that option away. I was like, see, this is the side of
Psych, no
Tesla.
take backs, and they got you.
Exactly, exactly. That's the side of
Man.
Tesla when people, pretty much this debate comes up whenever we speculate on Cybertruck pricing. I'm like, no, I think Cybertruck will be cheap and profitable to build, but that doesn't mean it'll be affordable. They know they got the demand, so they can price however much they want for it. People are like, no, Tesla cares about making things affordable and reasonable. And I'm like, I know they try to sell that vision, but at the end of the day, they pull kind of shady, icky, oh, next
Yeah.
year it's going to be ready. Oh, this will make you money down the road. They still pull some big business. It really annoys me when you take delivery or whatever. They say, welcome to the Tesla family. I'm like, okay, shut up. Maybe that got away in the startup days when there was a first few thousand deliveries. But when you're delivering like millions of cars a year. Don't use the
Because when
term
you're here,
family.
you're family.
It's like saying welcome to the McDonald's family. I get what the
Yeah.
the family thing you're going for is like. Oh,
Yeah.
we're not just a company. This is a family. We all know. And I'm like, you are not a
Yeah, great.
family
Where's my pay
brand.
raise, boss?
Yeah, right. So hilarious story of like, okay, I was one referral away. I was at I forget the exact number of referrals, but I was at 54,000 credits, and you need
You're
55
right there.
for
Oh.
enhanced autopilot. And I was like, this is it, here it comes. And they changed it. And they were like, you can't buy it anymore. And now Well, first of all, they said each referral is 10,000 credits. So I was like, oh, I'm gonna have credits left over after enhanced autopilot. This is great. I was so excited because I was like, I don't even care that much about FSD. I just want summon, and I just want automatic lane changes. That's the stuff I'm more
Right.
interested in. And smart summon and the FSD. I'm like, that's just gonna be a bunch of work. I'm gonna have to record videos of it and talk about my experience with it. I just want enhanced autopilot. I think I'll be fine with that. But then shortly after they updated the referral program, they also removed it, the buy enhanced autopilot and FSD outright. And I was like, oh, well, darn, that kind of sucks. But I was like, well, at
Yeah.
least I guess I have a lot of free supercharging miles now. That's kind of cool. But then it was like the day after they said, okay, also you're limited to 5 referrals per calendar year. And that's when I was like, well, I've referred like 26 or 27 people. So do they retroactively remove all of those previous credits? Like, how fishy are we getting here?
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
So the confusing part was on that same day, because this wasn't all at once, they kept changing it after a course of hours. On the same day that they said it's capped at 5, I got like 2 more referrals. And they said, these 2 people have used your code, and when they take delivery, you'll get 10,000 credits. And I was like, what? What? Like, wait. Okay, so I'm still getting credits. Is the start to the limit of 5? Does that start now? Or does that start for the full year and I'm over it? And I just wanted transparency for the record. I'm totally fine with them taking back the credits or, removing uh previous referrals or capping it at 5. That's all fine and dandy. I was getting not only emails saying people have used my referral code, but people were taking delivery and it says we've added 10,000 credits to your account, and they hadn't. They were not in my account. And I was like, you're still telling me you're adding credits and you're not. So I was asking, like, is this a bug in my account? Are there supposed to be credits and there aren't? Or am I done getting credits for the year and the email system is broken? I don't know. I
Mm.
wasn't really clear on what was going on. So I go into the app and I'm doing support on the website. I'm like, can I get connected with someone? There's no way to get connected to someone about referrals. Anytime I went to the referral section, it would just refer me to the terms and conditions. Refer me to here's the terms. You can limit to 5 a year. Okay, I'm at 27. So what happens now? If I'm still getting emails saying that you're getting 10,000 credits, what's the story? So I even tried, on Tesla's website, you can do the online chat.
Yeah.
I was like, what? They're like, what are you asking about today? Oh, I'm asking about the referral program. And they just go, refer to the terms and conditions. They don't let you talk to someone. So I had a lot of time at the airport, by the way. So I was like, I'll pretend I'm queuing for something else. So they're like, what can we help you with today? And I'm like, I want to buy a Model 3 and I want help deciding my trim. And they were like, okay, we'll get you connected to an agent. Here's Chloe. Chloe's like, hi, how can I help you today? And I was like, so I'm getting emails saying referral credits are being added. And I kid you not, the second I sent the message saying the credits aren't showing up, even though the email says they should be, they instantly said, check with a local showroom. And they didn't do the whole like, is there anything else I can help you with? Sorry, I can't help you with that. They literally ended the chat. Like they closed the
Yeah.
queue instantly. They said, check with local representatives. And I'm in Thailand. I can't check with the Tesla showroom or whatever. They're like, check with the local representative in your area. Thanks for contacting us. End chat. Closed. That was it. So there's literally no way. I tried email. There used to be a referral program at Tesla email address. I emailed that and it immediately just went, um, this email is no longer active. I tagged them on Twitter. I tried everything to let them know, hey, your system is not very clear. It's not transparent. What's the new program? What's the new policy? And on top of all of that, after I tried like 6 different methods of getting a hold of them, the next day they sent me an email saying, did you know you can get 10,000 credits by referring? They're still telling me to refer people, even though I've maxed it out. It was it was hilarious. So I was like, okay,
The left hand is not communicating with the right hand.
no,
Marketing
it
is
was so
not working
broken.
with customer support.
So it was so broken. There's still a huge communication problem at Tesla. Uh, they still have not been really transparent at what this means retroactively. They've changed the referral program so many times. So I was like, okay, I'm pretty sure I'm not going to get any more credits this year. So I helped Mike get, I think, around 19,000 miles in supercharging. So I was like, okay, I haven't helped out Randy, so I'll help Randy out with the referral code. And now I'm trying to figure out what to do when your code's maxed out, and who do I reward and who do I like put this code for? Because
Well,
I don't know.
I I would say like I'm being facetious here by saying this, but what
It's
if
okay.
like all things point to like you just gotta ping the big man on Twitter. You just gotta hit him up and say, hey, you help me with this. Yeah, it stops at your feet. It stops at your desk. What say you? And just tweet him, threaten him. Listen, if I don't get help with this, I'm gonna go look at that other app that just came out, and maybe somebody can help me over there.
No, even that won't put me on the other app.
That was worth a
that's
shot.
that's
It
not
was worth
even
a
worth
shot
it.
to see.
But no, I don't have Twitter Blue, so I'm not going to get Elon's attention.
Man,
But
Twitter freaking blue. That is, I know that's a tech thing, but that anyway. No, I'll save it for tech. I'll save it.
I'm
Yeah,
grateful though that the everyday person can now benefit a lot from the referral program. Like you can refer one person and you can get a lot out of that. Like that's awesome.
I agree. Yeah.
And there's less
In
reason now
fact,
for YouTubers to push their code so hard because you just get your five, and then most YouTubers are probably not like me that are like, oh, I need to reshuffle around my codes and put someone else's code when I get to five and keep track of how many referrals that person has got. But Tesla probably underestimates how much spreadsheet tracking I do. Like, no, I'm willing to play a game. I'm gonna watch Randy's referrals and see when he hits five, and then switch it to Brittany's, and then switch it to I don't know Lamar or AP or other people that used my code in the past or something. I don't know. Maybe I'll turn it into a membership perk, but I'm not sure if that's against the terms and conditions. It might be. I don't want to get anybody in trouble, obviously, but I used to do like Patreon giveaways, and the people running Patreon actually came approached to me and they said, uh, "We see what you're doing, and that's actually not allowed. Please don't do that." So I was like, "Oh, okay, sorry, I didn't know that wasn't allowed." So I think referral programs are amazing. They're awesome, and if people can get some free perks out of it, whether that be free FSD, which I still think, as much as we may harp on it, it's still really cool technology. I just don't want to pay for it. So to me,
agreed. Yeah,
the
yeah,
referral
yeah.
credits are the best way to experience FSD. Wait for the free trial, wait for those
Right.
promos,
Yeah.
and get to try it out. Like, whoa, the car's driving and stuff. I think you summarized it a few months ago really well. It was something like you were demoing it for your wife, and you were like, wow, okay, turn it off. Like that's enough. Yeah, yeah. That's how most people, I think, experience FSD. It's like, oh wow, that's really cool that it did that. All right,
All right, take it off.
take it off.
Yeah.
That's enough. So
Wow, this is the future.
yeah, right. And I think the only problem I have with FSD and Tesla is how they oversell it. They hype it up
Yeah.
too much with, oh, next year, oh, level five, whatever. And just don't get into that. And it's cool. I'm fine with that. Let it be the cool, garage startup style tech where it's just like, whoa, look what we came up with. It's so cool that you can buy a car that can do this. Where you lose me on it is the just $200 a month or $15,000 up front. Now I'm not as interested. But if other people want to buy a Tesla and they just have to click a code and now you can use FSD for 90 days, yeah, heck yeah, that's
You
cool.
you
That's
know you
fun.
know what else is cool? Fart mode blinkers
Yeah,
or
that's true.
Christmas show. Like
Oh yeah,
all
yeah.
that gives me the same euphoric. Wow, this is cool. All right, then.
Mm-hmm.
Then I just
You
you know
yeah,
ah,
you use it a handful of times, and
I vlog
That's
it
about it.
once. This is gonna make a great reel. All right.
Real? Oh
Oh, you're right. Short. Excuse me. At least I didn't say TikTok. Excuse me. I meant
my.
short.
Right,
Hey, fun fact.
right.
Just side note. I did a little short that also is a reel. That's also a whatever.
Is that the
Everything.
one
I
with the
don't use TikTok.
text that moved with your speech?
Yeah.
That was so cool. It was almost distracting. Like I wasn't even like I was just like watching how much the words were synced with your voice, and I was like,
So
"Whoa!"
that means something had to work right because with the shorts and the whatever, like I got more views on the short than I did the reel,
Aha!
and I think it's
Team
so.
YouTube.
Just putting that out there. So yes, I have shamed YouTube, but I will say shorts for now on. But funny enough, and I will admit a little behind the curtains here that that auto caption thing that synced to my mouth to be very,
Mm,
what like
yeah,
who's
yeah.
Mr. Who's the Boss like or whatever. That was a very Instagram feature. That came from
mm,
Instagram.
okay.
I filmed the thing. I trimmed it to a minute because YouTube will only take a minute.
Yep.
Other platforms I can go over, but for marketing purposes, I try to meet all the boxes of it.
Uh-huh.
And uh, I was getting ready to hit post on YouTube, but then I also set it up to put it on Instagram. And then it's like auto caption. What does this do? And just like what you said, I was sitting there like
Yeah.
reading. I'm like, I'm seeing the whole video through. This is
Yeah.
the so
It's
I
addicting.
downloaded it from
That's cool.
Instagram and put it on YouTube. So
Ah,
um,
that's
you know,
smart. That makes sense.
that was a palate cleanser from the EV stuff. All that to say now, because I want to backtrack and I want to pick your brain since you've been gone. Uh, the last month here,
Oh yeah, I
I
haven't
want
been
to
on
ask
EV
you,
for a while.
man,
Yes.
and I have so many questions I want to ask you.
Okay, okay.
So,
I'm ready.
first question.
3 hour show. Here we
Are
go.
uh, you're welcome, Tech from last week. You're welcome.
Yeah.
Okay. Uh, First question. In no particular order, but I'll catapult with this one.
All right.
You're still very much eh, Tesla first, everything else is secondary. Yes.
In in terms of like what? Like buying
Ownership
decision?
in
Okay.
term of ownership, in
Yeah.
terms of uh leading the campaign of this EV transition,
Yes. I
in
think
terms of uh for lack of a better word, uh reputability,
mm,
I can't
I might push back on that a bit because like while I'm a Tesla owner and shareholder, and I still believe Tesla will become the biggest
Sure,
company on earth. Um,
yep.
I, especially after my whole experience trying to figure out the referrals and not being able to get a hold of anybody and how quickly they are to dissuade and not answer questions. Like I see Tesla as in so many ways, I think this is such a good analogy. The McDonald's of EVs, both in good and bad. Like
Yeah.
Tesla's whole mission statement, their whole goal is just on scale, accelerate the transition. That their mission statement is not make the best high quality EV or have the best customer service or have the most luxurious interior.
Boy,
Like
ain't that the truth.
yeah,
What then? Yeah.
and not even necessarily to be the most ethical brand in the world is not even included in that mission statement. So there's a lot of shady practices and kind of weird stuff they'll do to make a profit or ensure that they don't lose out on potential revenue. They are first and foremost a business and quite a profitable one, and I think they're going to stay that way. I don't look at them the same way I look at a younger startup that is trying to establish a good relationship with their community. I think that's inevitable with brands that get bigger. I think smaller brands tend to be able to maintain that more personal side, more close relationship, which is why, like, if you ask me who my favorite company is in the world, I won't say Tesla. I'm going to say Aptera, as you know. But um,
Here comes the hate comments again. Here we go.
Like
He had to say the word.
I am much more excited and interested for both their company ethos and their product. Tesla, I think, is just the big conglomerate, the big giant, and yes, there's a lot of good in that. I don't subscribe to the idea that big company is bad, but there are bad attributes to bigger companies. Like I
Sure.
appreciate Apple and what they've done, and they're a huge company, but there's definitely a certain amount of safety and PR that we mimic and critique of like, oh, this is an AR, this is spatial compute. They got to do everything with their own magic marketing paint and act like this new yellow iPhone is the most amazing thing. And we make fun of it, but I still appreciate the tech. And it's the same thing with Tesla. I think that's like we talked about last week, the Telosa
It's the
Fulcrum.
best iPad
Yeah,
ever. And
right. It's the best
whatever
one
that
we've ever
means,
made.
Tim.
It's the
Yeah.
fastest performance on this graph that has no units or anything, you know, performance units, with the graph. There's all kinds of great tech that can come out of a big
This
company.
is you. This is us.
Pretty much. That honestly would have
Why
been
be you when you can be new?
That's good. That's good. See, I think like we talked about last week, finding that balance that's the Taylosive fulcrum point. Figuring out where there's a lot of good and a lot of benefits to a big company that's huge and taken over the world and has a lot of money and power to do higher voltage architectures, great charging
Sure.
infrastructure, and products at scale so that you can lower the prices of them. At this point, it feels like Tesla's got the cheapest EVs available. That's all great, but also keeping in mind there's downsides to that. It's not all good to have one big brand in charge of everything. The communication is much worse. The quality control is usually much worse, and
If
the
the
build
owner
quality.
slash founder chose to say something on a certain platform one
Right.
day, the
Yeah.
stock is gonna go so quick
Yeah, the
down.
stock can be tied to the one brand's performance a lot. So that's why it's a lot easier and a lot more fun to get behind Rivian as a brand, because they're in that early startup mode where it's like, oh wow, you're so innocent and kind, and you're so excited for the future,
Untarnished
and
by controversy.
I don't know who RJ voted for, and I don't care, and that's great, like
I don't care who he's going to MMA wrestle fight. What I don't
right.
care.
Honestly, though, I think RJ would do well in the
Have you
in the
seen
ring.
him?
Oh my God, he's amazing. RJ is basically Clark Kent. Like, let's be honest. Look
Yeah.
at him. That he is the man of steel. What should we
He might
call
be
him?
Clark Kent,
The man of
but he
iron.
ain't no
Iron.
Superman. Because
He's the
you
man
never
of
see him in.
iron phosphate.
Oh no, there's a
Iron
joke there. Hey,
iron phosphate man.
we'll have to circle. There's something there. There's a skit there somewhere. All right,
Nickel
we have to come
manganese
back to that
back.
later. All right, I ask you, I ask you about Tesla's position for you
Okay.
because what I wanted to pick your brain now over the last month with all these other cars now falling in line
Mm.
as they should. And you and you and you.
Oh
They
yeah.
all no, except for certain ones. Admonish, admonish. Yeah,
Shame.
it's shame.
Shame.
Yes, that's right. Shame.
We should start a trend. We should start tweeting like day one of Lucid not switching to day two. And we just every day tweet again. And it's the shame gift. Shame, shame.
I would love that. So,
Let's do it.
all this to say that given the current standing, I'm gonna make my stance
Okay.
and then echo where you'll because I don't know how to ask you it directly, but you'll know where I'm getting at.
All right.
Above anything else, I will always be Tesla first, in the sense that that is the most reliable network that I have. It's the most trusted brand that I have,
Mm-hmm.
and if we want to have a little bit of pride associated, it's the most American-made car too. So,
That's
like,
true.
I like supporting my country's achievements.
Sure. Yeah,
Not I
I
don't have
get
nothing
that.
against made in China, but there's a certain pride that you get when
Absolutely.
something is made in house. That's why designed in California has to be a thing for Apple because you want to have a certain pride to it, and it has made me proud to say that I'm Californian, and that's cool to see.
Yeah,
So there's an element, there's a human pride
for sure.
variable there, but if we were to put that to the side, it has the network, it had the port, it proved its points there.
Hmm.
It has the most efficient, I would say, turnaround period when it comes to um, R&D up
Mm.
into delivery
Hmm.
timelines. So that's a different conversation.
Yeah, yeah.
But we don't. More or less, we get what we're promised. We get what we're showed, and sometimes we are even given better specs than what was promised.
That's true.
Right.
Yeah.
So, uh, all in all, like Tesla unequivocally has earned my dollar, which is why I too will stay invested in them
Hmm.
and also put my money where my mouth is and buy the product. I believe in it that much, and I don't want to be a hypocrite. If I could do anything in this world, I want to be as less of a hypocrite as possible.
Yeah.
This one I can proudly say, like, no, this they're doing it right. Uh, there are I've had terrible customer experience too. If you remember when I had to get my own adapter
Oh
for,
yeah.
for my 220,
Oh, that
that
was
was terrible.
brutal.
I thought I got scammed. I was like, I just sent somebody $50 or whatever it was, and I was like, man, I think I just got scammed. So, and then one day it just
And
showed
that
up at my door.
the Tesla service guy about there's read and there's write.
Oh no,
It was horrible.
the read and write, and then the Windows situation with the Model Y. They're like, oh
Right.
well, you're gonna get billed. You're gonna get billed for this. No, I'm not. This I. It's like, listen, we would not deliver. We wouldn't let you take it. You weren't there, sir. You weren't
Yeah.
there. You
Yeah.
work. You work in the service department, not the sales department. You weren't there. Don't tell me
Hmm.
that. I'll be right back. So yeah, there are times where I'm just like, but it always works itself out.
Hmm.
So say all that, put that to the side. I can't be more excited for the possibilities of where Ford is going now, GM,
Mm.
where we're going with Volkswagen and obviously Aptera and Rivian and all electric vehicle company branded companies as well. But just seeing Legacy, everybody just trying to get on board, except yeah, because one of them is not a company.
I, we need to do that meme where it's like all brands will help with the electrification. Not you.
Not
Put it on the list.
not you. Yeah, you don't count.
Not you.
I won't even say your name no more until you're not a real company until you fall in line. That's the hill I die on, and I will be biased. I don't care. So,
Yeah, you upset some
uh,
people. I was reading the comments on that podcast. I was like, wow,
uh
Randy's really mad at Lucid. They were like,
I
so they're
don't.
not a
I,
real company? And I was like, gee.
no, no, they're not. They're not. They're like, well, Tesla was, but they're not Tesla. They don't have first mover advantage. I won't. You can't change my mind on that. They can't hold their breath. Well, if you're not gonna do it,
Yeah.
then pout and then lose your oxygen and look like a jerk for it. Almost a different word because it doesn't matter. Like you completely think that like who are you to make everybody fall in line? And okay, if you wanna go after Aptera for they haven't even delivered, you could say, but at least if I was to see that thought through, if the sinking ship is at least pointed in the right
The
direction.
right direction. Yep, yep. That's perfect.
Apple is a ship with a hole,
Yeah.
and my job is to get it pointed in the right direction.
That's
So
great.
at least with that thought project and logic, it is going in the right direction.
Yes.
Whereas they won't have enough money by the end of it all. Like I can't take them seriously. So am I being a little harsh? Yes. And am I attacking somebody who might have a vehicle? Probably. It's not personal. Don't get so defensive about it like I'm coming after you. Let's acknowledge the fact that
Lucid is not a hill
next
you want to die on, guys. Like it's
it's
not
not.
going well. They reported the delivery numbers. It's not looking good. I wouldn't take their side if possible. It's not
I've
gonna
seen a
end well.
Lucid in person. All right, I've talked about it on this
Me
show, and
too.
I thought it was a very beautiful, like bright
Beautiful
white
vehicle.
car. I thought it was an amazing uh, feat of design and
Sure.
engineering of what it looked like on the outside. I was like, that's
Looks
pretty
great.
neat. That's really cool. So I'm not dissing necessarily the product. I'm attacking the innards, I guess, and I'm attacking the leadership if I'm being honest. But
Yeah,
the
yeah.
leadership is what's really irking me there because they know what they have to do, and they should have the strength to do it. And instead of just sitting there, the snake biting its own tail. Well, that's okay.
There's a
Just a
good
little
like
longer.
a Beetlejuice meme people posted. Everybody's switching to NACS, and then there's Lucid, and they're like, "Hey, what you doing?" He goes, me? Nothing. Just hanging around.
Huh? Just hanging around. That's them. That's them.
That's them.
So,
They're just like
uh,
everything's fine.
what do you feel outside of our Tesla vacuum? And because I preface all that because I know you, me, and Mike have that core foundation that at the end of the day, if anything else, if anything hits the fan, we still fall back on our beautiful made, sexy lineup, right? So like,
Hmm.
let's sideline that for a second. You know that me and Mike are particularly keen and we're fond of Volvo, for example, and you know there's no surprise I'm a Rivian stan almost
Yeah.
at this point, and I like Aptera. It just doesn't fit my family's
You what
lifestyle
you
anymore.
you to Aptera is me to Rivian. It's the same.
Yes,
It's the
yes,
same thing. It's like I can't
it's
justify it, but I appreciate it and I admire it.
right.
Like I still freak
So
out when I see a Rivian in public. I'm like, look, and I want to play with
I
one. You know.
I can't wait to freak out when I see Apteras on the road.
Oh
I
yeah,
can't
that's
wait to
gonna
go back,
turn some heads for
especially
sure.
when I go back home. You know, when I go back
Yeah,
home and I I,
yeah.
I know where to go, and I'm gonna go like, oh, look at that. Hey, you sat down and did an interview with my friends. You know, I'm gonna be that guy.
You'll be that guy. Yeah,
I'm gonna be
exactly.
that guy.
So I
So
think what you're asking is with the adoption of NACS and superchargers and even Electrify America supporting NACS, which is kind of blew my mind. But it's like, you now? Really? So you're asking like, am I interested in stepping outside the Tesla ecosystem?
did you ever watch Django Unchained?
Oh yeah. Lots
Christopher, that's exactly what I'm saying.
I'm positive he did. Uh, I,
Yeah, that's
me looking
it's
at
more or less.
Peter Rollins. Uh,
Oh, I'm positive he did.
yeah, it's a good movie. Um, okay, so I guess for the most part, I my main focus with vehicles is still coming down to the efficiency, which is why I still have such an obsession and probably unhealthy attraction to Aptera because they're the company that's
Like Anakin to Palpatine.
Palpatine. It's got the electricity going. You're fulfilling your destiny. You,
Anakin.
right. Um, Aptera, more so than just a company or a brand, to me, it's so much more than an obsession with just a logo or a particular, oh, I like Tesla because they make cool car, or I just like the exterior design. To me, it's not about that. It's just the concept of efficiency is what I'm in love with. And Aptera happens to be the company with the biggest push towards that, which is why I'm such a fan. If another company was doing that same push, I would be obsessed with that. If GM made an Aptera, hypothetically, before Aptera did, then I would be the GM fanboy. That would push me over there. Mostly because I think what doesn't get talked about enough that is so cool in my opinion is a self-powered vehicle. There's just
Yeah.
so few instances in which we can do that. We can't do that with gas. We can't do that with hydrogen. We can't do that with jet fuel. We can't do that with anything other than electric and batteries and solar. That's like the only potential way. Maybe wind, but that doesn't really translate to vehicles. But yeah, right. You get like sailboats, but then you're kind of dictated by which way the wind's blowing. But we
Your job
actually,
is to get the ship pointed in the right direction.
yeah, right, the right direction. But we actually have the potential here for the tech exists to make a hyper aerodynamic vehicle covered in solar that could charge itself and cover the average daily driving needs. That blows my
Right.
mind, and I don't understand why investors aren't jumping at that concept. In my view, that's
Why
gonna.
aren't we funding
Why aren't
this?
we funding? Yeah, like Lucid keeps getting billions of dollars poured into them by the Saudis, and they continue to fail quarter after quarter. you just can't find people to buy the car. They're not profitable with the high priced cars they're selling. It's going horribly, and I'm like, here's a company that's trying
Don't
to
the Saudis get all their
profitably.
money from the oil that they?
it's it's very
They
backwards.
write the jokes right themselves.
Yeah, maybe that explains it. They don't actually want the EVs to do well. That's why they're
So
funding Lucid.
yeah, this is you're doing great. You're doing great.
Yeah. Um, but yeah, I'm so pumped for that, and the concept of a vehicle that doesn't even need to plug in is so amazing to me. And you have to jump over this little aerodynamic hurdle of, okay, you can't just settle with an SUV or a sedan. You have to go a little bit further with this teardrop style shape. But once you do that, and once you cover it with solar, it actually starts to make sense. Free driving around without a referral program is an amazing idea. Um, it's just
You're your own customer service.
yeah. And on top of that, they happen to be, big into right to repair and stuff. So that's impressive to me. So I guess that's the closest to like a non-Tesla brand that I'm interested and excited about. But
Okay.
I'm open.
All right.
Like I love Rivian, but nothing they're working on is really putting a big efficiency focus, so it doesn't really fit my demographic too much. And I like what Volvo's doing. That I enjoyed your guys' podcasts on the Volvo because I don't have that much of an interest in it. I don't really get it, but I can tell there's passion. So I'm like, I want the people who are passionate and excited about it
We are
to
passionate about it. Yeah.
continue to
Yeah.
be passionate and express why. That's cool for me. I just don't have much to say on it. So I'm glad you guys dove into it previously. Um, because if I was there, I probably just would have sat there. But it was cool to listen, and I don't have that same attachment with other brands, but I'm still curious. Like Jim Farley's talking about the T3 Ford project. They want to have a pickup truck with a much bigger aerodynamic emphasis, higher voltage architecture, and NACS, of course. So I'm curious to see where they go with it, and I want to see more vehicles with bigger efficiency emphasis than because right now Tesla is the big kid on the block, and it just feels like
Right.
they're the ones who focus on efficiency the most that are actually delivering right now, outside of
Hmm.
Lucid, but that all the efficiency gains are chewed up by the luxury, so it's kind of defeats the point of efficiency in the first place. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's
Is it safe to say then that unless something becomes more efficient than an Aptera, you're not personally interested in funding it? And let's even say that if there was no referrals on the table, you would put your money towards an Aptera personally
100%.
as
No, we
so
had to talk about
you're
that.
not you're not being bribed or incentivized to
Well, I am,
I
but it's
see
still
people
genuine.
I see people
uh,
think that you're, for lack of a better word, I feel the way I also read the comments that they think that you're selling out, and I
mm,
don't think they understand
yes, that's
what that means.
exactly.
Yes,
I
is
thought
it
that was right.
sellout if
No,
you are supporting, if you're endorsing the thing that you already believed in before, you know? It's like getting to go work if it's same line of like, did Tim Cook sell out when he took Steve Jobs' offer to go to Apple when he wanted to go to Apple? Anyway, even if don't do it. That's a sinking. It doesn't. It's never gonna work. Everybody told him don't go to Apple. The same way,
uh-huh.
like don't buy it. Don't. Why are you taking out tariffs? It's just not gonna last. They already bankrupt this and bank like there's I can. I'm not trying to do a one for one parallel here, but what I'm
Sure,
trying to say
I
is
get
that
what you're saying.
people is it selling out when you are like I can't be bought to say something I don't believe, but also at the same time, if I get something because of my own excitement for it, I'd be just as thrilled anyway. It's safe to say that Aptera for you is the only other contender that you have eyes for because out of everybody, we all have prerequisites and requirements on our
Yeah,
checklist
yeah.
that it has to have this, it has to have that, and this is the only one that meets most, if not all, of your demands.
Hmm.
At the trade-off, that can also be considered a feature that you feel. It's like, oh, and it has this also uniquely designed vehicle, and we're challenging the way we look at vehicles the same way the Cybertruck is challenging how
Yes,
you look at a truck.
right, right. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think we talked about it before we reserved our Aptera. We were like, we don't want to commit to this or put down a reservation and do a whole video about it if they end up scrapping the referral program because they're a startup and that's totally possible. And I even recommended it to the CEO himself.
To his face.
I said, you should probably take that down. And I wasn't saying you should leave my points and take away future points. I was saying you should remove my points. And for the record, the Aptera was checking all our boxes. The referral program was like whipped cream cherry on top. Like we sat down and expressed with Louise. I was like, would you still be open to buying one of these if there was no referral program? And she said yes. That was her like, yeah, this is the kind of car we would want aside from the Model 3, which basically covers all of our needs now. And it still does. It's not like we will be in trouble or we'll have to find a replacement if the Aptera doesn't work out. But we have come to the conclusion that it's handy and useful to have a secondary vehicle, and we like the concept of having longer range without having to pay a premium for it. And I mean real long range. I don't mean like, oh, the Model 3 LFP gets 270 and the long range gets 320. I'm like, that's not more range. That's just like a couple extra
You're
minutes.
stopping on the 3 hour mark or 2.5 hour mark, regardless at
Yeah,
that destination,
that's not really
because it will
more
cap you
range
to
in my
80.
opinion. It's
Yeah.
all it's that exactly the word. It's range, you know. It
Yeah.
depends on the driving style, depends on the wind, the weather. What I mean is like Aptera is shooting 400, 600,000 mile range. That's a meaningful impact and difference. And being able to just charge it wherever it um, is a huge game changer. Not having to worry about, oh, where do we plug this in when we get home
San
and stuff.
Francisco to San Diego in a single commute, right?
Yeah,
That's their.
and back, I think with the 1,000
That
mile, you
is.
could do the whole thing without stopping. Um, but the
Yeah.
the commute we have in mind is from our house to my parents' place, which is around 800 miles, and I'd love to be able to shrink that commute time. And I was plugging around on the about a route planner recently because I was curious. I was like, in the future, maybe I'm too obsessed with the Model X because I don't really need a crossover. I just like the windshield and the ventilated seats and stuff. But I was like, okay, what would a cheap Model S do for me in the future? So I plugged in like the long range Tesla, the longest one they make basically, 405 miles. If I did that exact same route, how long would it take? It shaved off less than an hour on the total road trip. So I was like, okay, that's not. I'd have to spend all this extra money to save
Less
almost an
than an
hour.
hour does not change your schedule for that day.
No,
You know.
not really. Um,
Guess we can't go to that restaurant we were looking at. Like that doesn't that
right.
doesn't count.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, it's not a big deal. And, I appreciate the referral credits and the free supercharging. I will definitely be taking advantage of that when I get back. But also, because Tesla is so finicky with this referral program, I'm also not going to assume that is permanent. They could change it again in a month, and we'll have to talk about this all over again. So the Aptera to me is a bit more of a guaranteed free, close to 10,000, 11,000 free miles per year because of the solar, and we live in a sunny place. That's not like hoping Tesla keeps the referral program the same the whole time. That's not really
Right.
a
Yeah.
guarantee. Aptera is like, no, it's just science. Solar, low drag coefficient, efficient powertrain. That's a bit more of a promise of like, yeah, this will continue to be free to drive and stuff. And in terms of the referral perks and stuff, I think the substantial difference between a sponsorship and a referral program is a referral incentivizes someone who's enjoying a product or service to
Sure.
continue. They want to continue enjoying that product or service. So yeah, their perspective can be a little bit skewed. I'm I'm willing to admit that because they have something to benefit from it. But typically, at least the referral programs I've been in, they're not some special access one. I can
Right.
take advantage of it. Randy can take advantage of it. And anybody watching this in the future, hypothetically, you can take advantage to the same perks as me. I'm not getting some special treatment. So if you see that I'm benefiting from referrals, that means you too in the future could also benefit. If you want to post
Mm-hmm.
about it, if you know people that buy it, especially when they design them in a way that you're capped at a certain amount, motivates everyday
Yeah.
people to refer. And again, you're referring someone, but that person now is incentivized to keep using that product or service, which means they like it. It's a bit more
Right.
genuine, it's a bit more honest than just straight up paying someone cash to promote something. Because then,
Like crypto,
yeah, right.
all
for the
those celebrities
for the
and their
bold, the brave.
oh, future favors yeah. If I swear,
You
if I
could
ever
put him
meet
in
him,
this is the most important thing to happen in the history of the world.
so
That wasn't the only bomb Matt Damon was working on.
I want to see that
Downsizing.
movie so bad. I want to see that movie so. That's
Are
all I'm
you
saying.
gonna do Barbenheimer or Open Barbie? Which I don't know which to watch
Uh,
first. Oh,
well, as much as I appreciate Margot Robbie, I can't say I will give Barbie a serious look for anything. I don't really care.
really? Okay.
Ryan Gosling is someone I appreciate as an actor, but I don't think I care about Barbie like that. Not when there's a Chris Nolan film on the table. Like everything else, I'm
Oh,
assuming
I'm
I'm not
watching
going to
both.
hear anything,
I love them
but
both.
I'm going to be like, I like that bump because I don't know. I feel like Sage will only give me like maybe 2 hours to three tops to like uninterruptedly look at something
Mm,
without
yeah, it'll be
so
3 for Oppenheimer anyway. But yeah, for
so
sure. The
I want to
referral
conclude.
program is it skews you a little bit, but I still think it's more honest than just getting paid straight cash.
I want to conclude then by saying it like this then, and you tell me if I'm
Okay.
right. Aptera for you. If I'm I don't want to put words in your mouth, but it seems to me that like okay, nobody needs okay, but just humor the whole thing,
Hmm.
audience. Um, why do you need an Aptera in your life then over something else? Aptera meets the goal of sustainability and efficiency in a way that can meet your day to day needs in a way that is it's one less dependency on external factors to help you move throughout your 24-hour period. And if done right and we can execute this and stick to the land and everything launches smoothly, not only will there be continuity between the three and the Aptera for like charging when that comes up if need be, if you need
Yeah,
to do that,
if ever.
but if ever,
Hmm.
you might do the portless challenge again. Who knows?
That's awesome.
We don't
The
know.
best port is
But
no port.
but Aptera as a product for you
Hmm.
can give you it's minimalism at its finest in the EV sector, where we strip all the unnecessary
Yes.
clunk of what our expectation of what a vehicle should be or look like or whatever. And when you strip it down to I mean, there are coupes, or not. I'm sorry, not even coupes. There are two seater
Yeah.
vehicles in existence now as sports cars and stuff.
Hmm.
Mazda has them.
The first
Nissan
Tesla.
350Z, the first Tesla, the Roadster.
Hmm.
It's not a novel idea.
Sure.
It's there. It's a thing,
Hmm.
and this fits that same demographic of like, oh, well, this is my getting around car, and the other one will be the more like, hey, picking people up at the airport, or I gotta take, for me, a kid, I gotta take my kid to from
Right.
A to B or what, so like
Yeah.
those also there, but to have your Aptera fit your lineup then for you, I'm basically assuming then this would become the new daily in the sense that like if you need to go somewhere, you're grabbing the Aptera before you touch the three for your local within a 20-minute perimeter of sorts. Got to do that stuff, and you'll be just fine
Hmm.
in the way that like your lifestyle specifically, you don't have to drive every day, and so even if you go outside of maybe your immediate city limits when you're home, it's still going to charge. It's going to juice up,
Right.
and you're not even going to notice an impact on it. So for you, it's the most cost efficient and literal, like, footprint wise efficient vehicle, and that is more beneficial and exciting for you than the kitchen in the Rivian,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
or whatever the F-150 Lightning is doing in the bed of the
Yeah.
truck or whatever. Like, for you,
Right.
you find more utility and benefit out of that one. Is that a
Sure.
pretty much a fair?
Yeah, if we're talking like for personal use, because everybody has different lives and different um, focuses and different things that they prioritize in their vehicles. For Mike, it's towing capacity and range, and he needs a truck for his lifestyle. And for you now with a baby, it's being able to move, um, not just you and your wife, but also your son and everything that he requires, all the supplies and what do you call it, the playpen stuff and all that.
Right.
Having the cargo space is important and that's valuable to you. And for us, I'm in a position where, unlike a lot of others, I my income is extremely volatile and it is not a promise. It's not guaranteed. My YouTube income is sometimes really good and sometimes not so good. And because of that, um, I think that the financial freedom that I see from efficiency
Mm.
enables uh, more peace of mind, knowing that okay, even if um, like I did a whole video on Talos of Life on why I'm not super sold on the solar for your house being
Right.
the end all be all.
Right.
I
Right. Right.
was like, I like
Yeah.
solar as a concept. I like the idea of harnessing energy from the sun, but it's when people are like, oh, this is going to save you money. At least where I live, I'm not entirely convinced because I've already seen them start passing laws and regulation on, oh, well, we still need someone to pay for the grid, so we're going to charge you based on how many solar panels you have. Or now there's a grid access fee, so now you got to buy energy storage to go off the grid, but then there's probably going to be a fee to be off the grid. And if they can't get you that way, they'll probably rope it into property taxes somehow. So I was like, I'm not convinced that we can just keep our it's like the efficiency focus. That's kind of my focus on it is I don't think there's a scenario where we all keep using an insane amount of energy through gasoline or through inefficient HVAC or inefficient vehicles, and we just lower all of the cost of everything. I think even with solar on your house, the price of the solar servicing and the roofing is going to go up and change, or the fees they tack on for grid access. Like ultimately, I think what will always be rewarded is like lower energy consumption. Period. Not so
Yeah.
much. Um, I'm using more energy, but I produced a bunch of it myself locally and stuff. So I'm just even if there wasn't solar on the Aptera, I'd be invested in it just from the concept of 100 watt hours per mile. That's going to be it's going to be whatever the price of electricity is, it's going to be the cheapest to drive. Even if it
So,
becomes $5 a kilowatt hour someday, that's still going to be the one to beat. And you're battling with physics. It's a lot of people just think there's some like magic powertrain thing. Well, Tesla has this magical motor that uses way less energy. At speed, it's not even really the motor that's the biggest energy consumer. It's just the aero. So I feel like nature is telling us what the most efficient shape is by being able to do these wind tunnel tests and figuring out how to consume the least amount of energy possible. And what the CEO really sold me on was the idea of efficient engineering is just smart. That's all it really means. It's just clever. It's just intelligent to get the job done with as little waste as possible. So yeah, that's the part about it that's most interesting to me, and nothing really else on the market has prioritized something that I'd be that interested in. It's like, okay, this has 7 seats. Well, I hardly ever use five in my car. Or this has
right.
more storage. Well, I hardly ever max out my trunk space. So this one has more range. Well, as long as you got a decent charging network, it doesn't really translate into more um, travel time or anything. So I understand why other people don't prioritize it as much because most people probably have a more steady income stream from a more predictable job or, salary or whatever. part of a
Right, because
business
that's
or
what 2020 taught us, right? Is
yeah,
that
we can
predictability
trust
is
on that.
what's really gonna.
There's
We didn't
this
challenge that at all.
right. Well, you bring up a great point though, which is that there are a lot of people that aren't prepared for unknown instances that come up, and I do think there's exponentially, it feels like every year there's rising cost of living, um, and that drives up the cost of goods and services. Everything feels like it's getting more expensive. So I think in general, regardless of what you think of EVs or efficiency, there's going to be a desire for cheaper transport over time,
Sure.
and flexible. There's public transport is good when you can have it, but there's a lot of places where it's just not feasible. It doesn't work
In the
because
United States, public transport only covers a portion of what a scenario would require from that. Unlike,
yeah,
we were talking about Europe earlier. Our like we're so spread out in the United States that it is practically impossible to get from your doorstep to wherever you need to go and have solely public transportation without there either being a long distance walk involved, someone dropping you off. So like it is you are not, even if you're in a city like a metropolitan like location, say San Francisco, that in a bubble is also like that. I guarantee your whole family is not there. I'm
hmm
sure of it. I mean, even specifically
everyone's
San
leaving
Francisco,
San Francisco.
and they're all leaving anyway, so maybe that's a terrible example. But that's the point I'm making, is that like people are spreading out even more. They're
Oh, and
realizing
it's a
after
yeah,
COVID that they don't need to be condensed in these locations. They can go to more rural spots, and I'm seeing it as a product of being out here now, that this rural spot not so rural anymore.
yeah.
It's a suburb. I live in a suburb now,
Well,
so
and there's all
I
kinds of
it
problems that accumulate from big cities too. That's like, okay, not only is transport more expensive, but in big cities, that's when rent and groceries tend to be more expensive too. So that goes up. So cool, there's public transport, but all of the cost savings of not having a car went towards other
yeah.
things. And that part of that's
So
cultural that like
we're
there's a lot of
our
farming.
country's layout, like our design of our transit system, both on like freeways and metro
hmm
trolleys and train, like we're kind of designed to fail in the sense that like we are not like how it is in other parts of the world where that's their main source of transportation, because we just don't have those means. We're spread out.
Yeah,
Luxury in the sense that like, hey, you want land space? Well, then you got the land space. Like people think that, oh, you're so packed. Like only certain cities you can name the top five.
yeah,
Chicago, New York, San Francisco. Like you could do that,
yeah.
but you're forgetting about that everything else part.
Right. And more so
And
than that, I don't think people acknowledge enough that public transport does not replace car ownership in a lot of
no,
countries. Like Japan has a state-of-the-art public transportation system and they're still the fourth largest car market in the world.
yeah,
Like people use vehicles for more than just transportation. Sometimes it's for comfort, it's for personal like you feel more comfortable in your own vehicle having a conversation, setting the AC the way you want, having your own route. You don't have to abide by a certain schedule of a certain train or a certain bus. You can go
music or
exactly where you need
podcasts
to
or a
go.
book. You just
Especially during 2020 for health reasons. I can
yeah,
understand why people didn't want to take public transport when there's viruses and people coughing, and sometimes there can be crimes committed in more public places or buses. It happens. So I understand why even in places with great public transportation there can still be a lot of car ownership like
not all public transportation is equal as well.
yes,
You might
oh
have
for
a good
sure,
transit system that's a good subway that works in New York City, but that doesn't necessarily translate as well when you go down to Philadelphia or something. Like
hmm
it they're not a one for one. So
it's a freedom
yeah,
thing which I support. I know that sounds kind of cliche American, it's about my freedom, but the truth is people like having a certain level of freedom. They like to live where they want, how they want, and they want to go to a destination when sometimes people are spontaneous. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. You just all got together, oh, well, that one dinner got canceled. We should go somewhere else. If you're on a public transport, it's like, oh, well, that's a whole different bus system we have to account for, and we got to go through this train station. Or no, they're closed today. Instead, you have your own vehicle. It's the kind of vehicle you want. It's the design you want with the music playing you want, and you can talk in that vehicle and you don't have to worry about other people eavesdropping on you. There's a privacy element to it. And people go camping, like you said, the camp kitchen, or we get roof racks on our vehicles and we take surfboards to the beach, or we want to haul our bikes around. It's a freedom flexibility thing. So the three pillars I put in my Tailosive EV bio is it's affordable, efficient, independent. Those are the three crucial points for me in an EV. It's like it's why Lucid's really efficient, but it's not affordable. So you kind of kill all the, and it's not independent because you're relying on Electrify America. Tesla feels more independent just because the supercharger network is vertically integrated and it works well. Aptera even more so because their charger network is flying through the sky every day, so you can just rely on that. So um, yeah, there's a lot of reasons that people, I think, over the course of our lifetime are going to focus more on how do I lower my, because money translates to time, right? Like the more uh, money it takes to sustain your lifestyle, then the more you have to work, the longer you have to work, or the more unpleasant jobs you'll have to work. Um, so finding that flexibility in life and finding more free time and finding that margin is going to be dependent on not just, okay, can I find a job that pays really good, but I think more focus needs to go towards how can I lower my lifestyle expenses so that I don't have to work a job I don't want to, or I don't have to stay long at a job I don't like. And I want more people to experience that freedom because I honestly don't think humans were made for or good at the 40-hour work week. Like we're not optimized for that. It's not good for
Right.
our mental health. It's not good for our biological
Our
health. And
posture. It's not
yeah,
good for our.
exactly.
There's a lot. I get what you're saying, which is why a whole nother thing. Don't want to go into it, but the idea of automation taking over, whatever that word automation means to you, I think is actually quite freeing on the human
Yeah,
element side of it
for
because
sure.
it gives people more opportunity to live,
Yeah.
whatever that means to you. When do you feel the most alive?
Hmm.
Being able to go do that, go be the best version of you that you feel you can be at this point in time. And if it involves, like, no one's like, I can't wait to go to work, and if you do, then congratulations,
That's
you got a
wonderful.
job that you like.
Anytime you
Yeah.
find work that you enjoy and love, that's a beautiful, rare thing. So hold on
Yeah.
to that. But yeah, automation also usually brings costs down, which makes the product or service more affordable, which means all that extra money can go towards other things, disposable income, can fund other avenues. Like good luck explaining this whole YouTube thing or now, the Twitter payouts to someone 2 decades ago. Never would have predicted that you can tweet things and then money shows up.
Especially 2 decades ago, because they'll be like, "What's YouTube?" And they'll
Yeah,
be like, "Oh, it's this thing that Google owns." Google, the search engine. I'm
yeah,
using Ask Jeeves in
right,
2003.
yeah,
Ask.com or Yahoo. I Yahoo it. Google was not even the main contender.
right,
Can I
right.
get that on my Netscape Navigator? I don't
Yeah,
know.
exactly. Well said.
Yeah. All right,
Yeah,
guys. Well, thank you for joining us on this very fun and special, intimate podcast for Evie and having Drew back. And thank you for making the time, Drew. And as
thank
I
you.
say every week, we don't know where we'll be next week, but if we have the time, we'll see you then.
I think I'll still be
So
here, but that'll be the
awesome.
last time here. Take care, all.
Yay or not yay? I don't know. Either way. All right. See y'all later.
Bye.
Bye bye.